So Steve, churches don't often think about money unless they're short of it. So how do you see money affecting the health and culture of the church?
Health and culture of church is such a vital thing. What we're trying to do at Stewardship is to see the world encounter Jesus through the generosity of his church. It's really interesting, being an accountant by background and working on the edge of the city, that what you see in the institutions around here, they've got a concept of the AAA rating. Financial institutions that are good to invest in. Now, in the church, we want to see something that has a completely different AAA rating, but is still really good to give to. And what we see is that AAA rating is a biblical one. It comes out of 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. It talks about good attitude, good accountability, and good administration. And all of those actually need another A. They need good active leadership to achieve those. Now, when Paul intros effectively the whole thing about money, 2 Corinthians 8 and 9, he talks about the Macedonian church. And he talks about the Macedonian church that out of their severe trials, they have this great joy and yet extreme poverty. And yet it brings a whole thing of an overflow of rich generosity. Now, that's not an equation that works in the accountancy world, but it does in the New Testament. And what you're seeing is the heart of God working out in money. So you're seeing both a really good attitude to money, but also then Paul goes on to talk about this whole thing of handling it wisely, doing what's right, not only in the eyes of God, but also of men, and also administering this generous gift, in a sense, to honour the Lord. So you've got all of this wrapped up in this AAA rating. What makes the church good with money?
So having a good attitude and good accountability and good administration is the AAA rating that can affect the culture of the church?
No, it certainly does set a culture, because unless you actively set a culture, we just tend to go with the culture that we've got in our society. So if you're a Londoner, you have a London money attitude. If you're coming from the north, you have a northern mental attitude. Come from West Africa, you bring that cultural attitude too. So you really have to shape these things by bringing the heart of 2 Corinthians 8 and 9 into the church, and then deal with these things practically over accountability and administration that follow on.
So is there always a tension between faith and good financial practice?
Well, quite often, there doesn't have to be, but quite often there is, because what the church is it's two things, and these things overlap. The first thing is we're the people of God who are directed by the Bible and governed by the spiritual leadership. But also, for the vast majority of us, we're also a legal charity, governed by charity law, directed by the trustees. Now, there is no inherent conflict. In fact, I don't think you ever get a better organisation than a charity that's got the heart of the gospel at its core, and yet got this issue of good financial practice as it looks at what the Charity Commission require and what good governance means.
So you've seen a lot of changes in the last 10 years. How do you see that affecting the church?
Yeah, it is interesting, because I'm now nearly 60, and over the last generation there's been a massive shift, and even in just the last 10 years there's been a big shift. There is a higher level of professional standards needed now than there has ever been before. Tax has changed, HMRC has changed, the Charity Commission has changed, the media has certainly changed, and even our own expectations as individual members of the church has changed. So we need a higher level of professional standards. And actually, as a consequence, sometimes this tension between faith and finance can seem to be pulling more and more rather than less and less. So church leaders and trustees, they really need to work at what is, in a sense, going to create this good culture in their own church.
So what happens if a church doesn't recognise the need to change?
Oh, there are just so many pitfalls and minefields out there that we see sadly most days of the week. I mean, it ranges from a big tax bill, it ranges from a Charity Commission inquiry at the sort of big end, But at lower ends, you've just got local media write about them badly, social media talks about them badly, even the membership of the church, who are themselves in a changing culture and understanding of money. They no longer want to be part of or give generously to a church that doesn't have this right attitude, accountability and administration. So in practice, we see a lot of different problems coming from a lot of different places. The problem being is that sometimes you can get different answers. Some, particularly the trustees, want to go for a really rigid sort of, we've got to have this formulaic, almost legal accountancy approach, while leaders want more of a certain sort of relational and faith approach. And actually, it's when you put the two together that you get both the real heart of the gospel, you get the heart out of 2 Corinthians 8 and 9, but you also get Paul's wisdom about how you need a team of people, the brothers, to come and handle money, how you need to be accountable and transparent, and how you need to have a good process in place. It's in this working together that you get the best outcomes.
So in your experience, do many churches have a AAA rating?
Sadly, not many. I mean, it would be great if the church were actually at the really leading edge of being the best institutions around for handling money and having the right attitude. But more often, actually, we're a bit of the tail end Charlie now in the charity world. I mean, money can come in, it's like this flow that comes in, but at times the church can be a leaky bucket. Sometimes the flow is a bit meagre, and then sometimes the bucket just leaks. And it's actually trying to get this thing of a really good flow of generosity, the heart wanting to give, and then the bucket being a good, solid foundation for containing this and giving it out into the places that really knows and really that you want them to achieve its purpose. And what we're trying to do, I think, is to see that with leaders, that they set that right culture, and as a consequence, in the sense that they're looking at what their church is like and how they feel they are about money and going, where are we good in this AAA and where are we weak? And then addressing those weaknesses with the governance and leadership team, both in terms of the spiritual level, but also at the very practical level of how you deal with tax right, how you deal with accountability right, how you speak about money. That's what we're trying to see come out of the church and make it such a fantastic institution that displays the heart of God when it comes to money and be a AAA institution.